Hi, and welcome back to Hill & Ponton's VA Disability Blog. I'm Natalia Jofre, the company COO.
And I'm attorney Melanie Williams.
So today we're going to be talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I've seen how drastically it impacts so many veterans' lives, and that is traumatic brain injuries. Can you, Melanie, give us a little bit of a synopsis of what a traumatic brain injury is?
Yes. So basically, when there is a sudden blow to the head or a sudden impact in the head that ends up causing damage to the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be either, your head suddenly violently hits an object,
Mm-hmm.
or if an object pierces your head and then ends up causing damage to the brain that way.
So we see this in a lot of claims, right?
Yes.
Because of explosions,
Exactly.
EIDs,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. It doesn't necessarily have to be that dramatic, but this is the kind of thing, slip and falls.
Absolutely,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
Falls, car crashes,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you were beaten, if you were physically abused in service,
Right.
and even just a falling down the stairs, falling from a ladder, any kind of, impact to the head can cause a TBI.
Okay. How is a TBI? Well, let me go back a little bit. Symptoms. What are common symptoms related to TBIs?
So there are three categories of symptoms that we would look at. Physical, psychological, and cognitive.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as cognitive, there will be decreased memory, decreased concentration, decreased ability to pay attention. It's a decrease of what's called executive functioning.
Mm-hmm.
So, the lack of ability to plan, organize, prioritize, understand consequences, decisions, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Physical symptoms could be headaches,
Mm-hmm.
dizziness, blurred vision, hearing loss, tinnitus, loss of balance, things like that. And then for psychological, it could cause anxiety, depression, mood swings, any sort of psychological issue.
You're giving these symptoms, and is it possible? So, for example, we always talk about how, unfortunately, many times while in service, you don't have medical treatment immediately following an incident. And I just want to correct myself. I know I said before EID and I meant IED. A little bit of a dyslexic moment there. But so something happens and maybe you're in a place where you can't get emergency treatment. Could a TBI later be diagnosed based on these symptoms?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that doctors will be looking at is if you had loss of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That is usually a symptom of TBI right when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
But there doesn't have to be loss of consciousness. There could also be, again, dizziness at the time. Blurred vision is really common when that happens. So those are things that doctors will be looking for. And it doesn't have to necessarily be in your service records. It could be things that you recall experiencing, people around you recall you experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things that a doctor will look for when determining a diagnosis of TBI.
Okay. How is it diagnosed? So they're going to talk to you? How do they make this?
Yeah. So if you're going to your treating doctor or private doctor, VA doctor, you'll want to talk about what it was that happened in service. So first thing you'll start with, what symptoms are you experiencing?
Okay.
And a lot of these symptoms could be things that, anybody experiences. So, memory loss, forgetting people's names, things like that. But when it's getting to the point where people around you are noticing, where you notice that it's more severe than usual, that's when you want to go see a doctor. And the doctor is going to ask you questions, and you want to bring up what it was that happened in service, whether you did lose consciousness, whether there was some kind of traumatic event that could have caused this TBI.
Right. And I know that in the past we've talked about buddy statements or lay statements that can help and be supportive. And would that also be applicable here?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to use that both to show what it was that happened in service, whether it was a car accident or, if somebody witnessed, somebody else hurting you, something along those lines. And you'll also want to use them for your current symptoms. So either a spouse or a family member, someone that lives with you that can talk about, these symptoms are severe and pervasive, and they're not just things that the normal average person goes through. They are to the point where they are affecting you on a daily basis.
Yeah, they're disruptive to your day-to-day living, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So if you file a claim for TBI, what can you expect to happen?
They will likely send you for a C&P exam. And again, that examiner will look at your records to see, is there proof for this incident that happened in service, and look to see how it's related to what you're experiencing now.
Okay.
So the main thing that you want to point out is all of the symptoms that you are currently experiencing. And it may even be things that you don't normally think of, or that, you wouldn't think could be related to this. Because symptoms don't have to have appeared right after. It could be gradually, increasing in severity. So again, anywhere from misplacing items and, just forgetting dates and names of friends and things like that, having a hard time keeping up with conversations, even just a sense of dizziness, hearing loss, tinnitus. A lot of these could be their own conditions, separate, but they could also be symptoms of TBI. So you'll want to mention anything and everything that you're experiencing, because you may not realize it. It could be related.
Okay, great. Okay. And what is the highest rating that you can get for a TBI?
Well, so because of how it affects you so severely, and because there are different symptoms that can be rated separately based off of these conditions, you could get up to a combined 100% rating.
Okay.
And even on top of that, there is what's called special monthly compensation. So even if you were rated at 100%, that's the highest rating, there are separate compensations that you can get each month for additional disabilities that aren't considered within that 100%. Oh, wow. So for example, if you need someone to care for you every day, this is called aid in attendance. So you're not able to dress yourself, cook for yourself, take care of your household chores, things like that, then you would need aid in attendance, and you can get a separate benefit for that.
And like you talked about before, in terms of whether you're able to drive yourself, if you become disoriented and you're not able to, drive yourself, if someone needs to then schedule your appointments for you because you never remember them and keep track of them and remind you to take your medication or drive you to your actual doctor's appointments, things like that, all of that could fall under the umbrella of aid in attendance, right?
Correct. And there is even a special level of aid in attendance specifically for TBI. This is called SMC-T. So it's where you need regular aid in attendance on a daily basis. Somebody cares for you, so much so to the point where if you didn't have that person, you would need to be hospitalized or in a nursing home or institutionalized. That's the highest level of compensation that you can get. Okay. So you want to, a lot of times veterans may feel prideful and they don't want to admit that somebody's caring for them. And, they have a hard time kind of facing that. If you're honest with yourself and you're honest with the VA, a lot of times it can get you more benefits.
And I think that sometimes it's you can lose track of what is normal and what is necessary. Absolutely. And when you were talking about, taking care of yourself, even as far as meals, if you burn yourself every time you cook, or you put a pot on the stove and then you forget about it. And, we've had several veterans that have had their kitchens on fire because they completely forget, leave the house and the oven is on or whatever. Right. So when you need to have someone that makes your meals, serves you your meals, I've talked to veterans that have their meals made for them and then they forget to eat. They'll go to bed, and I had a veteran tell me, I'd wake up the next morning and my dinner would be sitting on the table because I forgot to eat it. I thought I ate it and went to bed and then realized you never ate. So that's the degree of severity, right, that we're talking about for that particular special compensation.
Correct.
But obviously there's a lot of degrees of severity before you get there.
Yes. Exactly.
So someone shouldn't feel as if though, well, I'm not that bad off. If you're not, there's obviously other levels of compensation that you can then receive.
Yes, exactly.
And you said it goes from 10% to
20 and 30, and it goes up from there. And you can, for TBI itself, those are the ratings, but then remember that there are certain conditions that you can get you can get a separate rating for it in and of itself, like the migraines,
Right.
or even, with mental, if you have a mental disability specifically due to your TBI, you can get a separate rating for that as well.
Okay, great. What are some common issues with TBI claims as they relate to the VA?
Yes. So because it's such a wide range of symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
it's difficult to really encompass what all of those symptoms can be, and veterans may not realize that these symptoms could be due to TBI.
Right.
And a lot of times there could be several different conditions that aren't related to the TBI. And so you have to be careful of what's called a comorbidity of symptoms. So if you do have PTSD,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the symptoms of PTSD are similar to symptoms of TBI.
Okay.
So they won't give you double the rating for the same symptoms.
Oh.
So you have to be able to distinguish which symptoms are due to PTSD and which symptoms are due to TBI. And that's something that a doctor would be able to do for you and
Right.
figure out for you.
You don't need to figure that out as the veteran.
Correct.
That's part
That's
of what
the
they're
doctor
going to
does.
do.
Yes.
And then based on that, they're going to determine how much you can get from each,
Exactly.
right? In terms of a percentage or a combined percentage.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Super helpful. Thanks, Melanie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit our website, call our office. Otherwise, we hope you'll join us again.
Thank you.